Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Robert RN here, and today we're going to be talking about the kind of mentality you need to have to be able to survive any kind of emergency situation. First of all, you have to ask yourself, do you want to survive? There are kind of three things you need to remember that you need to be able to survive. Those three things are the will to survive, knowledge, and some kind of a kit. I'm going to go into detail for each one of these. First of all, the will to survive. It's really easy to be able to tell if someone is physically fit or, they're able to really withstand a lot physically. But it's really hard to tell mentally if they're able to handle the emergency or the trauma that comes with any kind of emergency. And so it's always good to just kind of train yourself mentally to be able to do that. So the will to survive basically means that you need to be ready to never give up regardless of the situation. The word quit needs to be completely removed from your dictionary, from your vocabulary. And you need to be able to be flexible and be able to adapt to any situation that arises. Now, with the will to survive, you need to have mental preparedness. That comes with resisting the urge to panic. Now, stress can cause some physiological changes, and this can lead to panic. But you can take advantage of those physiological changes, that adrenaline rush, to be able to figure out what you're going to do next. One of the biggest things with adrenaline rushes is you see that time pretty much slows down for a little bit, and you can either take that time to panic, and that kind of drastically lowers your ability to survive, or you can actually take that time to think about what your resources are, what you need to do in that situation, what are your priorities, what's going to happen next. Now, one of the big things that's going to happen with panic is panic can spread and will spread very quickly once it starts. So it's better to just nip it at the bud. PTSD. Now, not everyone gets it, but most people do, at least in a mild amount. One of the big things, for example, is my brother. He had just gotten married to his wife, and she had a major seizure. Well, that was pretty traumatic. He had the chance to panic, but he didn't. He was very smart. He quickly found out what he needed to do and took care of the situation as quickly and as calmly as he could. There are times where even now he wakes up in the middle of the night and checks on her because of the fact that happened. And for a long time he had trouble sleeping. But be prepared for any kind of traumatic event to change you for a little bit. Now, I said that the will to survive was first, and that is by far the most important thing. You can actually have all the knowledge and all the equipment in the world, but if you do not have that will to survive, you're not going to survive. Next is knowledge. With knowledge, you have to be ready and know what to expect in your area. I emphasize in your area. Now, everybody will experience different scenarios and dangers based on their preparedness and the dangers available in that area. One of the big things is don't wait till crap hits the fan before you start to learn or practice these survival skills. You need to learn these survival skills and practice them way in advance. Now, when I'm talking about when crap hits the fan, I'm not talking about, a nuclear explosion that causes all of civilization to end the way we know, as we know it. I'm talking about even the smallest things, like how many of you know the Heimlich maneuver? Or how many of y'all know how to do it on yourselves if you're eating a giant piece of steak and you choke? There's no one else around. These kind of things you need to learn to be able to survive in any kind of emergency situation. Now, those aren't a grand scale emergency situation, but they are still emergency situations you have to be prepared for. Next thing you need to know is how to build a fire or how to make a shelter. You can read these books all day, and they're always going to talk about the best scenario. Even in nursing, you're going to read these books and they are the best scenario possible, the best patient. That's never going to happen, ever. You need to be prepared to deal with a few wrenches in your gears. So, next thing you need to know is the items in your kit. If you just have them and don't know how to use them, they do no good for you. You need to be able to, one, know how to use them, Two, have used them before. Because in an emergency situation with adrenaline running and low food, low water, low everything, you're gonna really need to know by muscle memory pretty much how to use everything in that kit. Next, you need to know the hazards in your area. For example, you need to know whether you're in an urban city or in the wilderness. You need to know what to do in those situations. I live in the Dallas area, so I don't have to worry too much about hurricanes, but we do really have to worry about tornadoes and know what to do in the case of a tornado. So if an F5 tornado comes by, I'll be prepared. But if that happens to somebody, let's say out in California, it doesn't really happen as much, but they'll be more prepared for earthquakes. So know your environment, know what hazards are more likely in your environment. Next, you really need to know about security. Security is one of those things that will help you rest better at night. If you know for sure that you're going to be safe while you're resting and sleeping, or even when you're just going through your everyday life, that's going to help a lot just with your mental state. Something else that's important, even based on the Maslow hierarchy of needs, which is something you should really look for, especially when talking about survival, and I'll go over that in another video, is safety. Anything can become a weapon. Don't be stuck with just that weapon though, because if you get in a situation where you can't reach your weapon, you need to have the knowledge to protect yourself without a weapon. I also think that it might be a good idea to learn some kind of a self-defense course, or go to one, just because, like I said, you may not be able to reach your weapon of choice that you have. So always be prepared, no matter what. Another thing with safety is you need to be sure to limit the amount of risk that you're taking. When you're in a survival situation, even with somebody else, if you're with even just one other person, if you put yourself at risk, now that person has to be able to take care of himself or herself and you. And that puts a huge strain on the whole situation. So remember not to take any unnecessary risks. Do what you need to survive, but when it comes to risks, always weigh the risk versus the benefit. The last thing that you need to know about survival is kits, or some kind of survival supply. Look at your kit. I mean, I've seen some kits that have, 3 matches, a whistle, and a comb, and maybe a compass. That's not a kit. You need to have, or your kit needs to have, things that will help you increase your chances of surviving. But you should be willing and ready to use the environment that you're in and your imagination to survive. You need to be able to adapt. That is the number one thing to keep in mind, is your adaptability. Now, when I'm talking about using your imagination, I'm talking about being able to use whatever you have around you to be able to help you in that time of need. For example, let's talk about the walking stick that you may have. That can now be a fishing spear, or fishing lines can now be sutures, or the fishing hook can now be a needle to be able to sew things together. There's so many uses for these things. Just because the label says it's something doesn't mean you can't think of other uses for it. One of the big things is cardboard. If you happen to have cardboard, that works, 1, to insulate, 2, to be able to create some kind of a splint, also some firewood can do that, or you can use it as some kind of tinder to be able to start a fire. Stuff like that, you need to keep in mind that you need to be able to use things for multiple reasons. Be sure to keep in mind that everything you have has weight, and you need to limit the amount of weight you carry while still providing a high amount of usage out of your kit. Alright, so talking about weight, you need to make sure that on your survival kit, again, you have things that you know you're going to need. For example, if you're going on some kind of trip up to the north and you know that you're going to be surrounded by snow, there's a possibility you may run off the road and get trapped in your car in some kind of blizzard or snowstorm. May not be a big one, but you always have to be prepared for it. So you want to bring blankets, maybe water and food, but blankets are a big thing that you need to keep in mind. Whereas if you're going to a desert, let's say going to El Paso or past it to Arizona or whatever, you may not need blankets. You may not need things to stay warm or some kind of snowshoes. You're going to need water. You're going to need some way to stay cool. So always, even when you're traveling, keep in mind where you're going and where you're going, what you're going to be going through to determine what's going to be in your kit. Well, that's pretty much it for this video. I want to just strongly encourage you, if you have any questions, please leave them down below in the comments. Also, let me know what kind of region you live in, what climates they have, and what you have in order to be prepared in those climates. Or if you don't know what to have, tell me what climate you're wanting to know about, and I'll be happy to explain it. If I don't know, it helps me by learning about it and then presenting it to you. Other people might have the exact same question, and we can all learn together. So like I said, comment down below, tell me what you want the next video to be about. I'll be happy to work on that. Next is hit the thumbs up button, like it, share it, and be sure to subscribe. When you subscribe, hit that little bell off the side of the subscribe button, just so you can have some kind of notification when the next video comes out. This is Robert RN, signing off. Stay safe, guys, and be prepared.